What if I told you that painting outdoors is not as hard as one might think? I'm going to give you my tips on what to know before you go paint in plein air. And if you stick to the end, I'm going to go over the steps I take when I arrive to my painting location. Hey art fans, it's Jose. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're returning, thank you. I appreciate you. Painting outdoors can be a lot of fun if you're prepared. I mean, who doesn't want to enjoy the great outdoors and come home with a finished painting? Or better yet, selling that painting on the spot to a customer. Am I right? I've seen so many artists venture outdoors to paint in plein air for the first time, only to not have a good experience. Therefore, never returning back again thinking this is not for me or it's just too complicated. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not really that hard. Start painting outdoors in your own backyard. Get your feet wet. That's how I started many years ago. I can't tell you how many paintings I've done in my own backyard. Let me tell you, it was a learning experience. But I stuck with it and it became fun and enjoyable. It takes more than one trip outdoors in order to get accustomed to how things work. How the paint handles in the wind, the sun constantly changing the light. It's a whole different ball of wax painting outdoors, but if you stick to it, it can be a lot of fun. Once you get comfortable in your own backyard, then you can venture off into other locations, such as marina, docks, beaches, maybe parks, town squares, or maybe you can go out with a plein air painting group. You have to plan ahead. Painting outdoors is so much fun if you plan ahead, just like anything else in life. Look at the weather forecast. Don't get caught in the rain and have it ruin your morning. Bring a friend or family member so you're not out there by yourself. You have to be careful these days. Plus, they could have a lot of fun also. If you know you're going to be painting in the near future, make sure you have what you need. Paints, brushes, canvas, a toned canvas at that. There's nothing worse than driving for miles to a beautiful location and then realize you're missing something. Trust me, I know. I've been there. No bueno. By planning ahead, make sure all your gear is ready to go. Put your stuff in the corner of your studio, or better yet, pack your gear in your car that night, so in the morning all you have to do is grab your coffee, your drinking water, your lunch, and you're ready for a beautiful morning painting in the open air. Oh, I can hear the birds singing now. Make a checklist. Have the checklist either written down on an index card or your cell phone notes of all your gear that you will be taking that morning. This way you don't miss anything. Once you have your plein air painting gear down, then it's just repetition the next time you go out. To make things even easier, I have two kits. Studio painting kit and then my plein air painting kit. This has always worked better for me. Things will go so much smoother when you're prepared for the paint out. Pack as light as possible. Have an easy way of getting your gear to the painting spot in one trip from the car. Some folks use carts, others use backpacks. It takes a few times to go out to see what works for you. Bring a small canvas, a 9x12. Unlike those larger studio pieces, it's always good to start small for your first time. Once you get comfortable painting outdoors and get quicker at it, then you can graduate to larger sizes, such as 11x14 or 16x20. Sometimes you might be walking farther than expected, so it's always a good idea to travel as light as possible. Wear the right clothing. Make sure you wear a big sun hat and bring bug spray just in case, and comfortable walking shoes. If you're painting in the warmer months, or if you live in Florida like me, the hotter months, it's always a good idea to bring drinking water and stay cool and hydrated. If you're going out in the cold, same is true. Wear warm clothing, wear a hat, Wear some gloves. I like to cut the tips of my gloves so I can feel the brush handle with my fingers. I'm sure they make specialty gloves for this purpose, but I'm just a cheapskate. Who knows, wearing gloves just might help you loosen up on the brush strokes. Dress in layers so you can be as comfortable as possible. By being prepared, more than likely you're going to have a great time, and the chances of you going back out there will be a for sure thing. Now, the steps I take once I arrive at my location. Once I arrive at my location, I'll do a quick walk around to get the lay of the land, leaving my gear behind. I'll always come back for it later. While walking around, I'll look for something that catches my eye. I'll make note as to what side the sun is coming up at. I'm looking for light and shadows on the foliage that will make an interesting painting. I'll make it a point to have the sun either on my left side or my right side at all times. So I'll make sure I set up my easel this way. You can see a lot more dimension this way as opposed to the sun being on your back, or even worse, in front and in your eye. When I start painting, I like to look just over the canvas at my subject, or sometimes I'll look to the edge, the left edge of the canvas, and sometimes I'll look to the right so as not to make too much head movement. Constantly staring straight forward to my subject. I don't like to look at a subject to my left or right and then turn around and come back to my canvas and then look at my subject again and then come back to my canvas. That leaves too much room for proportion or perspective error. It's very imperative that I look for a shade when I set up my easel. This way, when the sun comes about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, I'm not right in the middle of the heat. If you don't mind the sun, make sure you bring some sunblock and especially a large sun hat. If you're in a tree like I like to be, make sure there's no dead branches up above you that might come down and fall on you. And especially make sure you're not standing on an anthill. I'll start out with a quick sketch with my number 2 brush and some raw umber, working very quickly and loosely, steadily looking at my subject as I'm sketching. To me, this is a critical stage. You have to make sure you get all the proportions and perspectives down right the first time. So I don't like to waste a lot of time with thumbnail sketches. Which reminds me, there is a formula for drawing, but I'm going to save that for a later video. Don't get me wrong, I'm a firm believer in thumbnail sketches, especially when I use them for my design process. The sun is moving way too fast and you really need to get on with your sketch. I'll follow the rule of thirds and make sure that my focal point stands out. I'll make sure I put my focal point off center and use light and shadows to direct the viewer's eyes to it. A good composition, in my opinion, is what makes a painting, regardless of the painting style or technique that one uses. Once my sketch is down, I will block in large shapes with various colors depending on what I'm looking at. And eventually, the shapes will be smaller, more detailed with light and shadows and texture. I try to simplify and enhance what first caught my eye of that area. I don't paint everything in the scene. The point is to capture the moment as quickly as you can the way you saw it that morning. I work very quickly because I want to be out of there by noon because it's just way too hot. Well, there you have it, my painting friends. Those are the steps I take when I paint outdoors. I'll talk about the equipment I use on another video and a painting demo from start to finish on another. If you found value in this video or have a question, let me know in the comments below. Stay tuned, art fans. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Now let's paint.